Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hobby Homestead. Today, I'm working on my compost system. So I have some compost from my house that I'm going to put in one of these bays. We have this beautiful 3-bay system, and I'm going to show you how we move from the fresh compost bay to the half-finished compost bay, and then I'll be flipping it into the final bay where it's going to finish composting, and I'll be putting it on the gardens in the spring. Bay number 1, our fresh compost bay, and you can see I've layered, so there's a bunch of kitchen scraps, there's chicken bedding, and then there's some more kitchen scraps or grass clippings, and then I had some cardboard that I layered on top, and then there's some more garden scraps, and I'm actually adding some more kitchen scraps on top of this. And then the next thing we have to add is more carbon or browns. So we keep it layered like this, where we've got greens, that's like kitchen scraps and fresh garden trimmings, and then we've got browns, which is high carbon ratio things like wood chips and my chicken bedding and cardboard and straw, things like that that are already dried and brown, and then you put them on and it just helps keep things balanced. If you have a compost bin that is stinky, you might have too many greens, too many fresh nitrogen rich ingredients like your kitchen scraps, and needed to balance that out a little bit more. As we enter into fall, leaves are a great thing as a brown ingredient for your compost bin. So fallen leaves that are all nice and brown and crunchy, they absorb and they just balance that system in there. They keep the right moisture level. Microbes really like that balance. Now I'm going to bring in my chicken bedding to add to this because we've got quite a few greens, a lot of nitrogen high content in this bin right now. Now, chicken bedding is a little bit of a mix because there's nitrogen from all their poop, and then there's also the wood shavings that I use to absorb it. So it's a bit of a mix, but I've found that it works really well as a brown ingredient in layering the compost, that if I use chicken bedding, it does neutralize any smell. I'm gonna get to work cleaning my chicken coop, so I can put that in here. I actually forgot I have more green stuff here. I have plant debris that I was waiting to put in my compost. I should have put it under the browns, but it's fine. We're gonna keep layering it. If you have like a chipper or even just garden shears, it's ideal if you can break up woody debris like this before you put it in a compost, because it'll take a lot longer to decompose without breaking it up. But I'm too lazy for that right at this moment. So I'm just gonna break it up. You can see it gets all slimy and gross. That's what happens to all the green material, nitrogen heavy materials, without the browns to compensate, to absorb some of that moisture. These are just old rhubarb seed stalks. Now you might think if you pick garden scraps, like extra plant material, you've got like a nasturtium that went extra wild and you have to rip out part of it to keep your garden in check. And then you let that sit out somewhere until it dries and turns golden brown. You might think that then that is carbon that you can add, carbon heavy, but because it was harvested while green, it's actually nitrogen heavy. So these things, even though they look brown right now, for the most part, they are nitrogen heavy. Now, every time I fill one of these bins with like a good chicken coop cleaning and garden scrap pile, it typically fills it close to the top, but then in a couple weeks, it's gone down about a foot and I can add more. And I've been trying to keep my system so that there's one bay that's active and then one bay that I'm just sort of turning and moving down the line as it finishes. I haven't really stayed true to that. I have added to this middle bay a little bit with like grass clippings and stuff and extra chicken coop bedding if I haven't had space for it. But for the most part, this is my active bin. If you're gonna work with compost, you can't be squeamish. However, there are really tidy systems too. Like you can get tumblers that are just a big plastic barrel and you turn it with your compost in it. All right, I'm done filling this bin. I can come back and add more of any material I need to get rid of into this bin. I better close the chicken coop before they escape. Hi, ladies. Now on to the fun bit. Not really. Okay, this is the cool part of our system. Kim built this system last fall. It's got 3 separate doors. You can open them separately and you can either prop it up on this side or you can prop it up on this side, depending on where you're turning to and from. Let's have a look at the temperature currently. I got this compost thermometer for my birthday this year. So we are at about 95 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit is like the lowest that you would typically see in an active compost pile. So I want it to get a little hotter, which is why we're gonna flip it. See all the grass clippings here? I'm also gonna give it a little watering. One of the reasons why this has been a little slow to decompose is because I haven't stayed on top of watering. So you need 2 main ingredients to make successful compost. Besides your nitrogen and your carbon and your organic matter, you need air and you need water. If you don't add air or oxygen, then you end up with an anaerobic decomposing environment, which produces methane gas, which is a contributor of greenhouse gases and global warming. So our compost bays are lined with a mesh, a hardware cloth, metal wire. I mean, you don't need that kind of construction. You could do just simple wood slats. There's lots of instructions online for taking old pallets, breaking them down and making them into compost systems. But we wanted ours to be rat proof, 100% rat rodent proof, because we're in the suburbs. We have neighbors with nice fancy yards around us and we don't want to be those people. So we made it rat proof, but of course we maintain airflow with the use of these mesh sides. But we have lids on also to help keep the rodents out, and that means that we do have to water. I should probably do it once a week in the heat. It's more like once a month that I go out here with the hose. When Kim laid the concrete for this, she made us a little K+A embedding in the concrete. Those little cute love notes are hidden all throughout the projects that she's done around here with concrete. It's super cute. But I can't see it unless I clean my compost bays, which I like to do because I want to preserve them. So after I've emptied a bay out, I do give it a little hose down, make sure I get all of the lingering organic matter off of the wood frame so that it stays a little bit longer without rotting. And now we've got this beautiful, beautiful compost here that's going to finish in this bay. One more thing I'll note about the construction of this compost system is there are just some screws driven into each board like that, so that when you stack them in place, there's just a little bit of a gap. And that is just another place for air to flow through, but not big enough for rodents to get in. I'm gonna leave this bay open for a little bit so that it can dry out. This one, maybe I'll give it one more watering. You don't want it sopping wet, but you definitely want everything moist. And I can see I was having trouble with the outsides drying out. That's because we have good airflow. So the outsides of the pile is where things weren't decomposing and were nice and dry. Whereas the middle of this pile, it was pretty moist all the way through, and you could feel the warmth coming off of it. I want hot coming off of it, not warm. Back in we go with our thermometer. I'll come back and check on it in a couple days. Just leave that one open to air out. Look what I found in our compost. Imagine what you would have left over from a municipal composting system. I'm quite sure that when they heat it all up, they would sift afterwards. I don't know if plastic toys would melt in their systems, or if it would just come out the other end of the processing and they'd sift it out. But it's, you know, it's a sad fact that even though we are home composting, this is just kitchen scraps that are like plant material, coffee grinds, really bug-eaten leaves from the garden that we've brought into the kitchen, things like that. That's all we're composting from our human life. And yet this still ended up in there. I mean, yes, I have kids, stuff goes everywhere. I mean, I don't even recognize this. Another thing, actually, this may have come from last fall. I went around my street and I brought a tarp with me and I gathered up all kinds of leaves that people had raked out into their street. In my neighborhood, we have a truck that comes by and sucks up all the leaves. And I brought them to my compost and added them in. And as I was adding them, I found so many things. I found a flip-flop, and I don't remember what else anymore. Like, definitely I found a sock. So this could have come from that, because I don't think this was my kids. Anyway, as it goes in the garbage. And on that note of what we put in these compost bins, I mentioned that we use like kitchen scraps, but we don't put meat or other animal products, so fats. I don't put a lot of grains in, cooked things. I'm not entirely convinced that you can't do that in a home composting, although I've seen it advised to not put grains, cooked things in your compost. I put a little bit and it seems to be fine. It doesn't smell. We haven't had any maggots in our composting system here. All of that other stuff, so we are omnivores in this family, so we eat meat products, so we put them in the municipal compost bins. We're in the suburbs, so we have the big green bins. And with those, I have maggot problems. With those, they get absolutely disgusting and foul. And so I'm glad I don't put all that material in our home composting, because that would definitely make it a little gross. When I was a kid, I grew up on a farm and we had manure piles because we had horses and other animals. And so instead of having just like a garden compost, we had a big manure pile and everything went in there. If there was a dead raccoon, it went in there. Like everything went in the manure pile. But this thing was massive. It was probably like 10 to 15 feet across, and you had to line boards to get to the top of it with a wheelbarrow, like climbing a mountain. Like, it was big. And so it got hot in there, it decomposed. If you get to the proper temperature, you can kill off anything harmful by decomposing. And so that includes pathogens, it includes weed seeds. You could probably get away with then getting rid of some animal products in your composting system, but you do have to reach those temperatures for a certain amount of time for that to work. So for here, I recommend just your average kitchen scraps, garden scraps, and lots of brown materials that you can get your hands on. If you're trying to compost and you're having trouble acquiring the amount of browns that you need, in the fall, leaves are an easy win. If you have any like pet that would use wood shavings, like a pet rabbit or a pet hamster or whatever, all the bedding there, that can be the browns for your compost system. But also consider getting a load of wood chips from a place like Chip Drop. This works if you have a big enough space, or if you have some gardens that you'd like to mulch with wood chips anyway, because it's free and you can use wood chips as an excellent brown ingredient in your compost. Wood chips promote fungal life, whereas all your kitchen scraps, those are a host for bacterial life. And so it's a great balance then. If you can get good bacterial life, good fungal life in your compost, then you're applying creatures that are balanced for a balanced ecosystem in your garden. It is time for me to go and shower. Definitely don't have your morning shower before dealing with your compost system because you will get stinky. Actually, that doesn't stink. Honestly, it smells like a forest floor. It smells good to me, somebody who's a bit of a soil nerd, but I still feel really gross. I mean, I also clean the chicken coop. So I'm gonna head in and shower. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions about this compost system, please leave them in the comments below. Please subscribe to my channel for more gardening content like this. I would love to have you along long-term with me in this journey of growing your own food and gardening in harmony with nature. And I hope that you'll come and grow with us.